Let's have at it.
Recording in progress.
Okay, 7:01 p.m. We'll call the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting to order. Let's start with our roll call. Lindsay.
Here.
Grace.
Here.
Sadia.
Here.
Tim. Not here. Brent, I know will be late, so email to let us know. Burton. Here. Robert's here. Martha.
Here.
Justin. Here. Great. Okay, 2B, approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything they want to add to the agenda, change about the agenda tonight before we get started? Nope. Okay, well, consider it approved. 2C, public comment. So I want to acknowledge and thank all of our students here in the room. Thank you for coming. Does anyone have any public comment they would like to comment on anything about related to Parks and Recreation?
But I feel like the assignment that we're doing would probably be like a photo of you guys.
Do we want to do that?
We'll do that next.
Is it like a selfie situation? And
Yeah.
photo?
I'd like with you guys.
Oh, okay.
Can somebody just take a picture like from
The
here?
and everybody
Just everybody try to make sure.
Brian will lay on the table. That's good.
Definitely not.
No, they have to do one sign. That's the return.
Like why they're into the government or anything?
No, this is their assignment.
Oh.
No,
Yeah, make yeah.
not that one. I will wait and not talk.
All right, everybody, look up here. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully you're all in it. Yeah. How are we going to get that picture to them?
The
We're on top. There's one more.
Are you saying the whole meeting?
I'm gonna stay.
You do that one.
Okay, well, while you guys figure that out.
And if you don't get it, spell park and we'll send it to you.
Yeah, you can always email. Yeah. Okay, but no comment,
No.
no public comment. Okay. Anything on the online?
1 second here.
Sure.
Hey, Leslie, no one out there for public comment? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no one online.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's run down to it. 3A, Cold Creek pedestrian crossing update. So it sounded like town manager was going to provide an update on,
Or no, but
update on the pedestrian crossing bridge. We're already there, we're moving, don't waste any time here.
Great. So we had a meeting on Monday, which our public works director led, Brandon Richardson. These are his slides. I'm just going to kind of go over them. I think Todd sent an update to all of you already through email because he attended. So you have his perspective. But I wanted to run through these just so you have the background. You can go ahead to the next slide. So this is some of the history on the project. Dates back to, well, before 2021, but this is when the agreement with Mile High Flood District for this project was originally brought to the board. Mile High Flood District is a government entity that we work with to manage our floodway. And they've joined in on this project. A lot of the reason for that is to improve the banks, stabilize the banks, and create a better situation for potential future flooding. The design group was Olson, and then Nahara was the construction company that was selected for this. You can go to the next slide. This kind of, that picture is small, I know, but it shows an overview of Cold Creek. On the top of the slide is kind of Grasso Park and the bungalow, and then on the bottom is where Rogers Farm neighborhood is. We looked at a couple of different opportunities to provide a bridge or a low water crossing here. This will help connect Rogers Farm neighborhood to Original Town, but it also helps provide a trail connection from the Cold Creek Regional Trail to Boulder County Open Space Regional Trail, may have for single tree was the closest one there. Some of the goals of the project you can see up here: stabilize the channel. They wanted to focus on an ADA compliant pedestrian crossing, and then also to minimize any environmental impact to the site. You can go ahead to the next one. The project funding, it's an expensive crossing, as most of them are. But we do have some partners in the project that are helping. So 50% of the funding is coming from Mile High Flood District, 12% from Rogers Farm Developer, and then the town is responsible for the remaining 38%. And the total project cost is estimated at 1.25.
So that's 1.25 million, and then we are paying 38% of 1.25.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
You can go to the next slide. And please stop me along the way if you have questions. That's perfectly fine. I'll do my best to answer those. When they looked at the Coal Creek Channel, right there next to Grasso Park, where we're looking at making either the low water or the bridge crossing, they did determine that the banks are pretty stable and in good shape, so they don't really want to impact them very much. They also wanted to avoid disturbing any of the mature trees in the area. We did lose several trees during the fire there, which kind of opened up some of the areas along the bank. Little bit of history with the 2013 flood. Some of you were probably here for that. The creek did escape the banks, and there was some flooding in Grasso Park. I think it went up to the structures, but it didn't really impact the structures themselves. What did happen is it created some of these drainage swales on the south side, on Rogers Farm side, where the water kind of escaped the banks and then worked its way back in. So when they were evaluating how to cross the creek, where to cross the creek for this project, some of those things were taken into consideration. They also kind of remodeled the floodplain. You guys need to not talk because it's hard for people to hear. When they remodeled the floodplain, they determined that the low water crossing would allow for a 10-year flood event, where the bridge would allow for the 100-year flood event. So some different metrics there associated with that modeling. And if you can go to the next slide. So during the design phase of this, the improvements, the focus was to try and connect the two regional trails. Overall intent, you can see there, was to connect Mayhopper Single T Trail, the Coal Creek Trail, and originally we were looking at 2nd Avenue as the connection point there. And then if you look at the Coal Creek Trail east of McCaslin, this would help connect under the McCaslin underpass to help bring people into downtown as well.
The current alternative, if you want to get between those, is either to go up to 2nd or you have to go through the traffic circle, basically.
Yes. So you would have to migrate either up to Marshall Road, 2nd Street, or go around the traffic circle right there in front of Rogers Farm, which is then Main Street going into downtown. So those were some of the options that we looked at. Those crossing McCaslin at any of those locations is a little daunting, just because of the number of lanes of traffic plus the speed at which people are traveling there. So we were looking for alternatives that were a little safer and more inviting.
I'm curious, since we have a lot of teens in the room, do you guys cross anywhere near this area? Like,
Oh,
right about where it is?
how
Like, do you cross cross the Cass line over there at all?
I used to live in Sabine,
Yeah.
so I have.
You guys, anybody? Yeah, how is it? Like, do you feel like it's dangerous to cross there?
I mean, no bridge,
Like on the road? Yeah.
no house. Yeah. We kind of, I go under the bridge and cross. I'm going that way.
Do you understand what she's asking?
Yeah.
Go ahead and go over.
Oh, next one.
Slow.
Oh, this is,
Oh, is this
That's
the
the
next
new one. That's the new one,
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
yeah, that's right.
So this is kind of the synopsis of the original intent, which was the low water crossing, was a little closer to the McCaslin Bridge than the bridge location. It was gonna consist of a 12-foot wide, 4-foot high reinforced concrete box culvert. So that would basically provide that low water crossing at that location. The distance between the trail crossing and then the actual creek, if it gets above 54 inches, so the low water crossing is higher than 54 inches, it's required that you put railings in. If it's 54 or less, you can go with the low rails or kind of almost like a kick plate kind of situation where that is just 8 to 12 inches high for safety. And then if they went with this low water crossing design, we would still have to do the additional swales on the south side where you see that blue line. So they would still have to do some improvements there to capture any overflow if we did have a flood event and channel it back into the creek. And this does require a FEMA floodplain permit, but so does the bridge. So those two situations are the same. We'll go to the next one. So the pros to the low water crossing is that it would probably be less expensive than putting a pedestrian bridge in. And if you can see on that south side of the creek, Rogers Farm has already constructed a piece of trail, so it would utilize that whole section of trail. So those were two of the pros. Some of the cons. The design team was really challenged to make this ADA accessible. They didn't totally rule it out because they didn't get that far in the design phase, but it was not looking promising from what they could tell. It would impact some of the wetlands on the south side of the creek, on the Rogers Farm side, so they might need some additional permitting because of that. Some concerns that it would negatively impact Grasso Park, but those concerns are the same, I think, for either of these options. And then a secondary drainage structure was required for that overflow area on the south side. The other piece that they brought up in the meeting was this trail connection where the low water crossing is into Grasso Park creates a situation where they call it a three-legged trail connection. So you have a convergence of trail traffic all in one spot that was not highly desirable. And they thought it would take a little bit more space to accommodate that. This is just a larger diagram of that showing the location and some of the elements along the way. So the pedestrian bridge was the other alternative that they came up with for this crossing. This location became a little bit more attractive after the fire because we lost a lot of trees just in that area south of First Avenue, which would allow a bridge to go in there with very little impact to existing trees. Crossing will consist of a 10-foot wide pedestrian bridge. It's 90 feet long, a fabricated truss kind of structure, and I think they have a picture of that later in this presentation. The FEMA floodplain permit has already been submitted and is pending approval. And then this crossing, because it's a little bit higher, and matches the bank on either side, can be fully ADA compliant. So that would be positives for this option for the crossing. Some of the pros, the pedestrian bridge is higher, so it allows for a 50-year storm event. Sorry, I think I said 100 earlier. It's 50-year storm event. There's no impact to the wetlands. It's ADA compliant. It's a safer connection near McCaslin with only 2 trails converging, so that traffic area at the end of the bridge is less of a kind of traffic situation. And then the secondary drainage structures are not needed. The FEMA Clomar has been approved, or is pending approval, so that work has been done. It needed to be done for either of those options. Cons for this project, it's definitely a higher cost because of the bridge. And again, the concerns of potential negative impacts to Grasso Park. So those are the same in either of those situations. And this is a larger overview of that trail connection. You can see where it kind of takes off halfway down that existing sidewalk that was put in at Rogers Farm. But it does dump people off right at First Avenue. Which then it's that parking lot right next to the bungalow on William Street. And the idea is we would improve that trail all the way up to William Street. So people could get either all the way up to William Street, or they could take this new path along the creek to the east. Some other components of this project, or it's kind of hard to point this out, but at the very top right-hand corner, we currently have a steep kind of ramp that goes down to the trail before you go under McCaslin. And that does not meet ADA compliance, so they will have to do some improvements to that area. And part of what they would do is put in stairs. So it'd be like 4 or 5 stairs and a landing, then 4 or 5 more stairs. And then they put in what they call these bike, kind of a trough where you walk your bike up. And so the bike rolls in the trough and you walk up the stairs. So that would meet ADA compliance, or people could continue along the path and exit either into the First Avenue, that parking area, or access the bridge. There are some improvements to First Avenue that are being proposed as part of this project. One is because we're improving that trail all the way out to William Street, which is on the top of that diagram. The parking needs to be redesigned a little bit to accommodate that. And so they changed it from pull-in parking to parallel parking. And I think they were able to accommodate this number of spaces by doing this. Just kind of as a side note, Public Works is working on a plan to eventually pave alleyways in original town, and the alleyway directly to the west of this would be paved at some point in the future, not as part of this project. But they are going to provide some fencing that will encourage people to use the trail all the way out to Williams rather than go through the alley. Some landscape buffers that they're proposing, and I think that covers pretty much all of the improvements on that First Avenue piece, unless people have questions about that. You can go on to the next one. So this covers some of the path modifications just to make things ADA compliant. I think I talked through most of those. The addition of the stairs and then reconfiguring a portion of that trail so it's ADA compliant all the way to the underpass area.
Leslie and I did talk about signage for that spot changing because people that are used to coming up there on bikes or down there on bikes, now there's gonna be stairs there. I mean,
Well, take it.
I have heard that.
Tracks.
We been discussed already.
Yeah, we will definitely have to have a whole campaign to keep people informed and also site signage as well. Some of the concerns mentioned about Grasso Park, this would be an impact to the park that's new because we're not only providing a bridge crossing pretty close to the park, but also a path through the park along the creek. And this park is known for the historical elements that are there. And there's a concern that we don't negatively impact any of those. Some of the things that we looked at as far as impact is making sure we're far enough away from the buildings, so 5 to 10 feet away from existing buildings, which isn't far, but that's about the amount of space that we have. We also looked at reducing the width of the trail from a 10-foot trail to an 8-foot trail as it goes through Grasso Park. We have hired an archaeological consultant, Metcalf, and they have done some site visits as well as looking through all the records for this piece of property to see if there's anything recorded about the historical significance. They looked at, you have Colorado historical designation at this location, but the town has not sought out national designation yet, and that is a desire down the road. So they wanted to make sure that any of these proposed improvements would negatively impact that future application. So they're looking into those two, and if and when we do put the trail in through the park, they will have an archaeologist on site. So if any artifacts are discovered, they'll know how to properly handle them and record them, and if we need to make any changes to the project because of that. One of the proposed improvements, which hasn't been finalized at this point, would be to also allow for some interpretive opportunities along that trail, since we are bringing people in close proximity to historical structures, and there's some old farm equipment out there and some other things that we could offer some interpretive signage and maybe have a little pull-off area where people could learn about that through some signage. This talks a little bit more about those studies that we're doing. There's a class 1 and a class 3. We're doing the class 3, which incorporates both of those levels to make sure that as this project moves forward, that we're really giving it the attention it needs from the historical and archaeological significance of that site. Next steps. We haven't received the final report from the archaeological consultant yet. We have a preliminary report that they provided. Once that final report is received, we'll present that and share that, and see if there's any further direction from our board or anybody else on moving forward with this project. So the design, just the current status of design is already in place for the pedestrian bridge. If we decided to go with the low water crossing, we'd have to do a little bit further design on that, because that design wasn't as fully fleshed out. The CLOMAR, which is the conditional letter of mapping revision that has to go to FEMA, has been submitted and they're reviewing it. For any floodplain impacts right now, it doesn't look like there's any negative impacts to the floodplain. All the residents within the area have been notified and have an opportunity to provide feedback as well. So we're anticipating the permit to be approved in the near future, and the contractor is ready to move forward once they get that approval. And that is pretty much what was covered at Monday's meeting.
Okay.
A little bit quicker, but I wanted to make sure. I know one member was able to go to the meeting, but I know the rest of you had conflict, so wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to see this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are you looking for any other input from us at this point? This is not.
Questions, and yeah, any other comments you might have are fine. It's not required.
Unless anyone has any burning comments, I think in the interest of time, we'll move forward.
Yep.
But thank you for the update.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
this is-
Thank you.
Okay, 3B, Town Superior Comprehensive Plan. So I think you guys probably saw an email a few days back from Brian about this. Just looking at the Town Superior's Comprehensive Plan, which is sort of all the things the town is planning to do in the future, construction wise, and we're looking for some feedback from PARC. I'm hoping that folks got a chance to look at that. So I think the first thing I'll ask is, did folks get a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any feedback?
It's good.
Okay, that's feedback.
Is there gonna be an update to that comp plan? That was already go.
That's what we're here to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice segue.
Perfect. Nailed it.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure. I forgot that we had a presentation part of this.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Jeffrey Weathers. I'm a planner with the town, and
Lisa Ritchie, everybody. I'm planning and building director. So we've done a brief, like 5-minute presentation, gonna give you an overview of what we're doing. And then we just want to hear from you in terms of what matters, as we think about going through these plans.
yeah. So as we said, we're doing a comprehensive plan and transportation plan update simultaneously. You can switch to the next slide. And it's been a little while since we've done the last ones. The comprehensive plan was last done in 2012 and the transportation plan in 2014. These are, just for a little bit of background for those that don't know what these plans are like, these are very high level plans that are used for, sort of like the framework of decision making for committees, for trustees, for staff. It's been a while since we've done these last ones, and a lot's been accomplished. You can see that these are, more than just plans. The things that were discussed in the last plans, you can see it detailed here. All those things have come to fruition. And although, that's a lot of stuff got done, there's plenty more opportunities and challenges ahead. So we're looking forward. We go to the next slide. The elements of the comprehensive plan are to establish community-wide values for decision-making. So this is, we just want to know how people want decision makers to be thinking, like on a broad-based value level. Also, we want to establish preferred land uses for vacant land, development patterns that we'd like to see, sort of like our hopes and dreams for how the town will develop. Then, another thing that it does is it just sort of links together like all these other topics such as transportation, sustainability, resiliency, economic development, parks, open space, all the elements have to come together to inform our land use decisions. One product that will come of this is going to be a land use map, which will show the future land use decisions that we make in the plan. That's okay. Perfect. Cool. The project timeline so far, we've done some outreach and engagement. That is wrapping up that first segment of engagement. And we're also concurrently doing some analysis of data, and that is going to lead into the next phase. We're going to analyze all that data and start exploring the path forward from there. Next slide. So
We have a clear winner.
this is the word cloud. Just since we don't have any of the feedback analyzed yet, this is a word cloud of our first the responses to our first question of the survey that we conducted, which was, basically what is your favorite thing about Superior? So you can see all of the sort of key topics that came up for people when they were answering that question. But we will have some real data coming out of this, and they're crunching those numbers now.
Pretty consistent with
I
past.
prefer this
past
method.
I want to point out to everyone, Costco is on there, but like the other word, more than one person put Costco,
That's pretty funny.
which is hilarious. I find that to be hilarious. I was thinking about it, I'm like, if you
How many people said that word like no?
yeah.
Like you can't tell if this was positive or negative.
So funny.
Probably.
How many survey responses?
So of the initial survey, we got not a lot of responses. I think there's a lot of surveys out there, but we got about 150 responses. We're doing some follow-up work on the ground and some surveys. We've got a renter survey out. We're going kind of door to door with businesses. We've also had some public engagements of other kinds. So altogether, I think it'll be a pretty good set of information. But I mean, the survey did not get as many hits as I think we were hoping, but it was about 150.
It is fairly consistent with other surveys I've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we got a lot of surveys now, and we kind of cure surveys with surveys.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, next slide. This is just, some information that we've been considering. We had a question for ourselves, which is how much vacant land is there really in Superior? And so one of our staff members put together this really neat kind of visual aid about, just how much land we're talking about. And so even though these are kind of pieces and parcels, when you consider it, when you're not considering the annexable land or infill opportunities, you still have about 83 acres of, 81 acres of land, which is, put together, that's as big as the marketplace, Bell Flatirons. It's bigger than a lot of other developments. So we still have, some land to work with, and, there's a lot of decisions about how we should go forward with that. And in addition to that, there will be infill questions and annexing questions and all those things as well. And next slide. And so, we're here because we would like to discuss with you, within the lens of this committee, what are the issues that matter to you all in the town that might, be relevant to the comp plan. And we can open it for discussion there if you want.
Yep.
Anybody has feedback?
Happy to take any questions too, if you have kind of questions on what we're trying to do.
How are we set for future growth for certain capital projects? So libraries, rec centers, things like if that ever, that momentum ever builds, I mean, it's planned to be 15 years. So how we set there?
I guess it depends on what metric you're probably looking at. So I guess set, right, there's, I know for park facilities and open space facilities, we have kind of national metrics, right? So I think if we are looking at scenarios that would grow or add residential development in the town, we'd have to kind of reevaluate those metrics. I know also, some of that just comes down to funding, right? And what's available regionally and what as a community do we hold as a value that we are fine funding for ourselves, or where do we feel like we're okay? So there's, again, there's probably some best practice metrics, but then there's also just these kind of conversations that we'll have. In terms of the comprehensive plan, some of the specific decisions like that, like, maybe if we're thinking about, I'm going to say it out loud, Town 15, what might happen on Town 15, I think the comprehensive plan might say, generally we think this should be a recreation facility, right? But then it would come back to your group for like, that means picnic benches and a playground and a soccer field, right? So comp plan, is kind of intended to be high level. But when we think about town services, that's certainly something that we'll be evaluating.
I think you're competing projects. So like at some point, if they want to do a municipal police department, fire, as well as a library or things like that. I mean, are we doing scenario generation? Or we think like, okay, well, if we want these kind of capital projects, do we even have the space to do it, the real estate to do it? And what would that look like? And I mean, I think, when we get to a population of 17,000, now we're on a peer size of the communities that are much smaller that have those facilities. And the town will evolve as far as their priorities. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a high level, the comprehensive plan should consider all of those things, right? It should consider the impacts to, what do we have for our water portfolio, right? Can we support the urban development? What do additional residents mean for town services? Sometimes the comp plan says, if you do this, you have to do this. Sometimes it says, if you think about this, you should think about this, right? So it may or may not kind of drill down to the level of, defining all of those solutions.
It doesn't look like just space, like how much space does the city have control over? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's kind of that graphic, right? Just, the 81 acres of vacant land, right? As well as, infill and like the marketplace, for example.
Like but 23 acres is
15 acres is the only thing that the town owns. The rest of it is privately owned.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got a huge bond measure passed, so I would just, from my perspective, PARC, do a PARC lens. I'd like to just work with, see what all those CapEx needs are that were previously unfunded that are now potentially at least partially funded, and how we can help, staff and the board make those decisions as to what goes where, at least from PARC, for PARC. So, a lot of our time spent in discussions in the last 6 months at least have been like, okay, well, our directive is going to change if the bond measure passes, but we couldn't do anything, and we still can't do anything. I think our entire 2025 will be spent prioritizing what are those capital and allowing us to give feedback to the town as to where those monies go.
And I think that'll happen just through your routine meetings here in 25. I think a lot of those decisions will probably get made probably before the comprehensive plan is already done. And I think a lot of these things that they might put in front of you are probably improving existing sites. I don't know that you're going to have a lot of money for new projects.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that a rec center was built into those funds. We have 228 plus center. My kids use it every day.
Are there triggering events
For free.
for the comprehensive plan? So like population gets so much, crime per capita hits so much, trigger, okay, now some police force or.
Let's keep the discussion scope to parks.
Okay, so same with parks. So I mean,
So again, I think that's where kind of those national best practices, right? So from time to time, you all do an inventory of, for a population of this size, it should have this many, fields, and you should be having, residents within a quarter mile of this type of park and half mile of this type of park. So yeah, certainly, can connect those dots.
Mine was more of like, I know this doesn't, I don't know if it necessarily falls within the comprehensive plan, but like, programming, like, I bet that there will be comments that you guys get from the service, like, hey, we want to see the town of Superior put on this program for whatever. I don't know. I don't think it would fall in.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, I'm like, yeah.
I think some of it might depend. I mean, I think some of the background data that we're looking at is like shifting demographics, right? So we all know that the town of Superior is aging, right? So the comprehensive plan will probably acknowledge that we have an aging population and the town should consider services that are geared toward this population, or how to attract demographics that maybe we need to kind of, where we are missing, certain types of folks. It's probably not going to say we need to have a theater, we need to have this, but I think connecting services that the town could provide to demographic needs and things like.
What about, like El Dorado School or the school closures? So that's on a potential list for closure. How does that work with BBSD and the town potential? It's BBSD land, but usually a lot of times the towns purchase that and yada, yada, yada. Is that part of the comprehensive plan? Like if school closes?
It needs to be part of that. So I think some of that we already know, through our conversations with the school district. Some of that is, I think, just a Boulder County trend in general, right? Superior is aging, Boulder County as a whole is aging, right? So some conversations with the school district part of this process.
I'm happy to hear the improving portion, because I think, personally, that's kind of more of my passion. It's not brand new build. Public safety is paramount, like we covered in the front end of this meeting, as far as the pedestrian bridge. But I think, we have aging, you talked about aging. So we have aging parks, we have aging pools, we have aging tennis court, aging benches. So I think, personally, I think that would be a huge win versus, some kind of grand scheme of brand new build that's going to wow everybody. But while I can't sit on a bench because it's not safe. So that's awesome.
I think that's, what is the wisest use of resources and making sure we're not neglecting, existing stuff.
Make sure we're not neglecting something that was built 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Roads is outside of parks. I don't want to get into roads, but it's also relevant to let's take care of what we have already. That needs attention from 25 years.
Are there locations in town where you feel like that you all talk about in terms of like you need enhancements? Or
we have a list.
Yeah.
Have a list. I think I think something that we've talked about a lot is like a lot of the playgrounds are very weird. I've lived here my entire life, so they're 25, almost 25 years old. Like they need some updating and I think that's like a big topic between us is renovating
something that comes up consistently that we've talked about and will only become more consistent in the next 10 years. As the planet continues to heat, is the need for things like shade at all of our parks and misting stations, access to water.
And shade it can mean shade structures, it can mean more trees.
But that's very consistent throughout many of our meetings.
Yes.
I think that's a lot of our feedback as well.
Yeah, you're not the only board that said that.
The other one that came up a lot when we were talking about the new parks in Sagamore and Children's Park, and one thing that's continued to come up is access to restrooms and like facilities, especially with the amount of open space and trails. So that's yet another thing. We know those are a large cost piece of it.
Is there a way to, one thing, like some infrastructure, like the green park that he likes, it's pretty bad now. Is there a way for us to measure like an underused facility because of its current state versus, like if it was a super awesome bike park, it would be used a ton.
I'd say the comp plan's probably not the vehicle to do high, detailed evaluations on the park facilities, right? I think this is tended to be more, we need facilities here, we need facilities here, but I think that's,
I think if it's underutilized, then maybe the comp plan would say, okay, we get rid of the terrain park and put something else there. But perhaps because it needs maintenance, maybe people would use it. So how do we square that?
Yeah, would that fall into like a Parks and Rec comprehensive?
I think if there's sites that you all know, like this doesn't make sense anymore and we have to think about revisioning, I think this is a place that those conversations could emerge.
Within scope for us to say, like, it seems like this is not being used, maybe this is a, redevelopment opportunity for us.
Yeah, if it's gonna be like one rec facility to a different rec facility, like if we're gonna switch it from a terrain park to like a tennis court, that's probably not a comprehensive plan discussion. So what can happen though? I mean, sometimes these topics emerge through the comprehensive plan. They don't get solved in the comprehensive plan, but then Ryan and Leslie know like, hey, we heard this. PARC, we should talk about it, right? So sometimes these conversations emerge through this, but they probably wouldn't get solved to that fine degree of detail through this plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we know, right, things will ebb and flow over time. And I'm curious if in looking at this update, if we looked back to 2 and see which things were being considered with the town, I know a very different size, but are there things that have kind of gone away and come back? And is that anything that we would plan for to not change something because we think it's going to come back and instead we want to take care of it differently? Because it's a lot of expenditure when you start to change things versus maintain them and have them bide their time. Because we know, right, like the population will curve back, like all those things swing on this big pendulum, different levels.
That's a good question and something that I don't know that we've given much thought to. I think Superior as a community is still fairly young, right? Like we still tend to think of things as in phase 1. And we as a community, I think, have to start thinking about phase 2 and phase 3 and the longevity of the lifespan of our community, right? Like a lot of us, now, some of us have lived here a while. I've lived here before. I don't live here now, but just thinking about kind of the evolution of a community rather than planning for day 1 of a community.
Specific example. So you talked about some of the parks. We toured Community Park is a large space that when you're out there doesn't get frequent usage unless it's accompanying town events, in which case it's getting tons of use. So you hate to try to think about something else with those spaces only for that need to come back later as people want to, come out more or do things again.
That's a really great point.
What about benchmarking? Do you look at peer communities and say, based on peer communities, this is a best practice, like a forward-looking emerging trend versus a retrospective kind of backwards looking trend, like we're just going to maintain stuff like that?
Are you thinking park specific or?
Exact park
Yeah,
specific.
so maybe Leslie, I don't know if you want to chat with Brian about how you guys do those assessments for.
And I'm not sure I understood the question, so.
Well, I mean, I think the power of the comprehensive plan is like putting forward a plan that looks forward as far as new types of facilities where trends are going, rather than maintaining old trends that are 10 years old or whatever. So what are communities doing now, brand new communities that are sort of a gold standard for where, for instance, like bike trails and open spaces and things like that.
Do you mean like distance, like the number of parks you have for a community of a certain size, or like?
No, the actual design of the facility. So like, for instance, like a community built in the 80s would not have bike paths. They wouldn't have these open space corridors. We have those now, but as this was built in the late 90s and 2000s. So what are the new communities doing? What kind of new infrastructure are they putting in? What is the new way that people are going to encourage things like outdoor living, a healthy lifestyle, walkable?
I mean, we've absolutely, I think that's one of the things that we're lucky as a town, that we have a solid planning staff that is, educated, and the town pays for training, and the town sends us to conferences from time to time, right? And I know Brian's staff does the same, right? So
no, we
do that. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we absolutely do that. I think we're consistently tracking, what our best practices and trends. Go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say, as far as like the vacant land goes and how it develops and what the park facilities look like there, I think that's certainly an open question that we would need feedback on. What should the standards be if someone wants to develop something? Yeah. How do we want it to look? Do we want it to look like what we have? Do we want it to look like something like you're saying? Is there something more innovative that we need to be thinking about?
I think a perfect example is like e-bikes. So e-bike infrastructure came in the last 5 years or whatever. We've got great bike trails, but we already have conflicts between e-bikes, traditional bikes, walkers, and all that stuff. So would we change our infrastructure to accommodate that? And is that a new trend that's going to encourage more people, more kinds of transit like that? And then is there a strategy? So we don't want to become an aging town. So the comprehensive plan can incentivize based on how we build out infrastructure, the kinds of, like if it's more family friendly or retirement friendly. Is that worked on?
Thank you.
Is that worked on as well, as far as like, hey, we want to maintain a balance between youth and retirees and all that.
So you may or may not know, we're doing a lot of work around housing right now as a town, and the town board is going to consider the housing strategies plan again after hopefully after the holidays here. And that, I think, when a lot of these are really interconnected, right? So we think about new jobs, we think jobs for people, right? Where are they going to live? Right? We also think we're an aging population, but do we have houses or places for those folks to move into to free up the houses for the people that live in a more traditional single family house now for those young families to move into, right? So housing gets accompanied with all this. It's also one of the reasons we're pairing the transportation plan and the comprehensive plan together. In the past, we've done those separately, and it's really challenging sometimes to think about changes on what could happen on a piece of property if you're not at the same time thinking about changes that need to happen to the trail network, to the roadways, right? And so we've deliberately paired these two plans together. I do understand that you all tend to have purview over trails and trail connections, and that's something that I would love to know.
That's more open space.
Oh, I thought that was you guys. Never mind.
Yeah, if it's going through a park, that's different, like,
Trails through the neighborhoods and through the towns.
Yeah.
that's not us.
Oh,
We
okay.
tend to focus more on park facilities themselves and the programming around the park facility,
Got it.
and certainly any park facilities
Okay.
would be under our purview as well.
Yeah, like a path that goes around community could be considered ours,
Yeah.
but like a community park could be ours. It just depends.
So-
Usually doesn't fall in our.
Yeah, so I want to grab the mic here because I think that this is a very interesting discussion, but we have still many things to get through tonight. Maybe a good next step is for us to, I'd like to capture that set of questions.
Totally.
Maybe we all need to think about it and then we can provide some feedback.
That would be great.
Asynchronously, because I've certainly just looking at the questions, I'm like, man, I have lots of things on my head, but I can't imagine trying to go through them all at once. So.
And I also want to say we're coming back. So when we get to the
Okay.
scenarios and we have draft land uses to look at, do you like this, or trail connections or transportation, we'll come back and you'll have the opportunity to weigh in. When
Okay.
we have something.
Yeah, but thinking about trends and demographics, that is the kind of feedback that we want. I mean, you don't have to have the answers. You could just, have the questions.
So I mean, I do want to, I hear you when you say we're an aging community, but I don't see that.
Okay.
What I see is like this demographic.
Yeah.
And I see like every week when I go to Costco, because I go every week, let's be honest.
Every time I go to
I see you. But I have to tell you, who else is there every week are the CU Boulder kids.
Yeah.
And they're there and everything's like micro macros and all things they're talking about food and that. But I have to tell you, what makes me so sad is the fact that they come here to shop and then they're leaving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are we not engaging? And when I saw, the portal at the bottom, kids was so small. And it just makes my heart sad because there is a presence here. And this is what I do feel in Superior, is that sometimes that is not embraced. Like we look more at the younger side, but not this side, not to put you guys on point. But the thing is like, they come in, they'll shop and then they leave. But I'm like, how do we keep them here? And so I would like to see that when I answer this question is how do we engage this next generation?
Yeah.
Right. So how do we engage the alphas and the younger millennials? Because I think that's really important because we don't want to just be silo. And I think the other thing that's really important, being a person who is South Asian, I'd like to see more diversity, especially in Colorado, right? And I think for me, I don't see that here. There's always a white lens and full transparency. And that's something I struggle with. I'd like to see things like more like, diverse recreational activities, maybe color runs, things like that celebrate different things. But I just would like to see more of that. And having that lens of like, that's who's moving in to Superior, right?
Well,
my neighbors it's very diverse.
And to that point, I mean, Superior, I think we're 17%, has an age, is of Asian ethnicity, and recognizing Asian ethnicity is very broad, and it doesn't encompass when.
And then I say like, oh, we opened another Mexican restaurant. Okay, so we got to look at other food, okay, or beers. Like, okay, I get it, So I think we need to look. I'm so happy with the boba. I was like, yes, boba shop. But I think that's the thing I'd like to see. So to tell you from my perspective, I'm sorry, I know you wanted to kind of.
That's okay.
But it is something that I think is very important.
Can I reach out to you separately on that?
Yeah,
I'd love to. We'd something we've been talking about too, just in terms of how to foster that
I always
conversation through
appreciate
this
you
process.
say, 'cause you make sure everybody's staying honest with biases and perspectives. And I would have never even thought about a changing demographic population from a diversity standpoint and whether it would require different type of amenities. right? Because everything we've seen and we have is so ubiquitous. But it's like an education gap, right? So what are those other things that we would change or look to do differently? So as those demographic trends evolve, there are probably things that we as a committee haven't considered, because if you look around the room, mostly homogeneous, right? How do we challenge us and get some of that input back from a larger plan to say, here's things that you have to consider, and then work on those resources to get it.
Yeah, and all the City Boulder kids are really diverse. I mean, it's great to watch. It's just, it's all the flatmates, right? It's all the, they're together, but it's a very diverse group. And I'm like, how can we keep them here to want to hang out besides just like saving money to get like a cup of ramen?
Well, and like the silk, the high school kids, I think, when you're in that room, it's very diverse. There's a lot of diversity at the, within the youth here in town. So really appreciate you bringing it.
You guys brought those maps to the silver room. I think that having some, like, if there's any way to get some of those here for our next meeting so they can look at them.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if those markups were helpful.
Yeah.
But I think they can have fun with that too. And
Absolutely.
start thinking about like the space use visually, having that. I don't think that would help that.
The socioeconomic stuff, like I got super excited when Martinez is talking about the YMCA. That'd be huge infrastructure for socioeconomic diversity. It's different than a rec center, and it services like a much broader socioeconomic. That'd be super sweet.
Okay, writing it down.
Okay, so, maybe we'll
If you
cap
have
this.
anything, I would say feel free to connect with Leslie or Brian on anything you need to follow up on, and we really appreciate your.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along. 3C, debrief from PPRA conference.
Right.
I love Star Programs. They're my favorite to work with. Literally, because they do places. They work with a nature play company out of China, and they're nice and peaceful. Small, nice.
So I attended the Colorado Parks and Rec Association conference in Keystone a couple weeks ago, and brought some things back. There's some stickers here and things like that. I think for those of you that don't really understand the format of this conference or any conference, really, it's a lot of different sessions, which I brought the sessions. Was it correct? Yeah, go for it. So I brought back a sessions list, an agenda list. So if anyone is curious as to what the sessions are, but the sessions are really half of it, right? They're keynotes, speakers. There's a ton of breakout sessions. It's a great opportunity for networking. I would say that I was an anomaly there because most of the people that are at these conferences or this particular conference are employees of the park system in one city or another within Colorado, which was fine though. It's not like I was completely out of place. And when I spoke, I got corrected almost viciously when I said I'm only a volunteer, and that like erupted the room. So if you ever go to one of these conferences, don't say I'm only a volunteer or I'm only a committee member. That is not received well. So I recommend not saying. So it's something I have to break. But anyway, really great. You have your selection of different breakout sessions. Again, the networking opportunity is tremendous there. A huge footprint from a variety of small and larger cities. I mentioned in a note, Commerce City. You don't think about Commerce City. Well, I don't think about Commerce City much, but there is a huge number of people there. They were mentioning the number of projects going on in Commerce City. So, I mean, it's really cool that the community that's there, obviously Boulder City, Broomfield, Louisville. I mean, and there's a sprinkling of directors everywhere for all these cities. So it was a great opportunity to really expand my knowledge. I'm new to the committee. I brought back a few things, and Grace going to have this one here because she likes this company. But there was an endless amount of folks from parks, but then vendors there promoting a variety of different things. Water sports was a big footprint. Mowing your grass with robots and everything under the sun. But, one of the things that I just kind of spoke to that, and that's going to be my soapbox, at least in my position here frequently is that, one of the breakout sessions was around, not trying to create a legacy while you're here, whether you're a board member or a committee member. I want to put my name on this to say, Justin Willis was responsible for this structure or this path or this playground, but rather just be behind the scenes and promoting what's best for the community and not have your name stamped on a bridge or a path or a playground, So it was just, obviously that touched me more than some other areas, but a great opportunity. I recommend it in the future for other folks. Again, the networking opportunity was huge. So that's it. Any questions?
Worth it?
Worth it.
Absolutely worth it.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Make sure it's in Vail in October if you're interested.
Sure, we tapping your brain about things you've learned from that as we talk through all these different upcoming decisions and recommendations we're gonna be making. So it's not like one of the things that I saw in your debrief email from that was the focus on maintaining existing infrastructure as well. And I thought that was
and it becomes personal to me. I mean, I think that should, we need to focus on everything, growth and all that future and stuff like that. But I think there's plenty to do. You don't have to go looking for great ideas. You just go to one of our parks. And I mentioned that in email that there's a couple of emails they sent out today. There's plenty. You don't need an imagination. You just go to a park and say, well, that's not right. So that, and that's, some of the guidance there was relative to that. So.
okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for going for us.
Thanks for allowing me to.
I think it's great. Okay. 3D Park swag order update. I don't know how we're saying it. And this has a
different
discretionary
things.
budget.
Want to
So
clarify what those two different things are or no?
We're on recordings.
Park swag.
Yeah, I'll give the quick update on that. Brent really pretty much steered the ship on this, but recently placed an order for you guys with using your discretionary funds. All these items are gonna have the town logo on. I'm just waiting for mock-ups that show what it looks like to approve, but just as a quick refresher, 100 those first aid kits, around 400 stickers, the full color stickers, circle 3-inch. The dog, sorry, what were this called? The waste, yeah, the food bags, food bag holder, yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Then the trucker hats, the 24 trucker snapback hats. And then lastly, I know Brent got you guys orders for the long sleeve t-shirts, so kind of doubled up on all those sizes. So yeah, should be getting those by the end of the year, and you guys will be stocked back up, but that was around $2,100. So I think that'll leave, after that goes through, around probably 500 left in the discretionary budget.
All right.
So,
Works.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
How long will that stuff last, you think?
I tried to pick some, there's some stuff in there, you can get like a foam hat for like 7 cents and it's like, this is not sustainable.
like cheese.
So, Trustee Kalish, after you were very clear you didn't want like a dad hat, I was like really looking. And they have the ones that have like the really short brims that are like, yeah, I had a lot of fun. But no, what I hoped I found were things that are like quality and not just throwaway. And I think for the giveaways and stuff, we talked about like things that weren't going to be left behind or just thrown away. So everybody's got reusable water bottles. So the stickers were primarily for that, first aid kits, the dog poop bags. So stuff that we thought was going to be well used and quality enough. And if not, then we can return it and Brian can call for imprint. They want my money back. Or I'll do it.
Sort of related, the chamber tonight had the ribbon cutting children use space in the sports table. And one of the things that they want to do is have a superior store in there. And I could imagine some of these things being in there for sale so the point of like bringing visitors
$70 per hat.
direct.
That'll save our budget. That was mine, that's what I wanted to do.
That's what pays for the diving board at the New North Pool.
See this kind of stuff
Yeah.
available for Would you guys wear like superior stuff, clothing or hats or?
Oh, we got like cool designs on it and stuff.
Yeah,
It is a cool design.
This one-
Yeah.
Cool design.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you guys-
Well, hold on. Can we not project it's a cool design and have you pull it up and
Yeah.
ask them if they think it's a cool design?
Yeah, okay, can we check? I think it's a really cool
But you
design.
can't lie.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
you
said,
said-
oh,
Yeah, not everybody told you.
You're
it's
like,
cool.
that's terrible. Just
Don't,
say that.
yeah, don't tell us like, don't.
You're not gonna hurt
tease us.
anybody's feelings.
Or just don't say anything, right? Just,
Just stand up and leave.
Sorry, guys. 1 second here.
we put you on the spot, man.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see. I can, dang.
If you right click it and then, open image in new
Oh,
tab.
there we go.
Now, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's essentially the,
That's like kind of,
there's something like that on a shirt.
or hat. Like, do you see-
Yeah, I'd definitely wear that if I was wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh.
Yeah, probably both arms.
Or dad hat.
Like a sombrero. I did look at beanies. They were more expensive. Beanies were more expensive.
Well, no, because they're, okay, the curved one and then the trucker has the flat rim one and then.
Like I'm so.
Did you know hats come flat and then you can make them this way or you can flatten them? Just FYI, let's open a haberdashery over here so I can update your hats.
Jeffrey Martinez.
What is it then?
The curved one
Yeah.
and this one.
Hey.
You're not. Of our discretionary budget was so much.
I've been in work meetings at 6 a.m. Central today, so, and flew home.
Joy.
Oh, yeah.
3E, Marshall Fire Subcommittee update. Let's have it.
Hi, that's me. So basically, I had this meeting on Monday and, the meeting before that, we didn't get as many people from the committee there, so we decided to just do the same thing from the previous meeting and talk about what we want to do based off of the second survey. And so we kind of came to somewhat of a decision to just write a scope and send it out to like bid in the world and see what people bring us, basically, is the thought process. So, and it could come to us if it ends up being like a gathering space, just letting you guys know. And that's pretty much probably where it's headed. And it's looking like it's gonna be on the Orman Roach Trailhead is where we kind of want it to be, because it kind of overlooks that area that was affected, and it's also not in people's backyards. That's the like other thing that people didn't want. So, yeah, so we're gonna write a scope and send it out to landscape designers, landscape architects, artists, and just see what comes back, whether it be relating to like a gathering place, like a Happen a Pond memorial type of situation, or a pet memorial, or, you know, basically we're like, we want to see if people have better ideas when we do stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions about that?
The distributed idea
No, it's not.
go away.
Yeah, I mean, we have a public meeting about it.
Okay.
So it's
No,
basically,
no, distribute, just.
Oh, the scope?
No, like, we're talking about, because I'm assuming.
oh, that happened upon, yeah. I mean, it's pretty 50-50. It's,
Black around.
yeah, like,
Oh, it's a big sculpture.
that's well, they kind of want to do all of them. That makes sense. Yeah, it's kind of where we came to, is everybody was like, we want all of these things encapsulated. But for the Happen Upon one, I think we're still kind of go back and forth about what does that look like? And what does that mean to people? And is that what people want to donate their money to make this happen?
Yeah.
Situation, so. Yeah, but other than that, that's it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Tom.
All right. Now we get into the real meat of it. 3F, prep based on sales and use tax ballot measure approval. So just in case you didn't know, the bond measure did pass. So the town now has considerably more funds to do things like improve tools or other stuff that we hopefully can help plan for. So I think this is a bit of a question to town staff and maybe a little bit to you, Jen, as well. Like, we want to be ahead of this. We want to make sure that we've given input at the right time. So when do we need to do that by? Like if we were saying, this is Park's idea for how you should program some of that money.
Or what do we need to provide input on?
Correct.
Right, for Park.
Yep.
Right.
What is the scope and when do we need to identify?
Yeah.
It's a great question. And I can help.
It's a great question.
The election hasn't been settled yet. We
Yes.
haven't met, we don't meet this month. We'll eventually certify
Yes.
people next month. And,
Yeah, it is not official.
so we haven't, as a board, even talked about this
Yeah.
because we haven't met so I don't have a lot of answers, but
Yes.
I set the stage just a little bit. We have over $32 million of backlog in maintenance related things. So taking care of what we already have. Bond isn't that much. So it'll only hit a piece of that. So it may not be so much that we're looking to the committees for how should we spend this money? But okay, we know the pools were mentioned as part of the actual question. So there's a good probability that the pool renovations are going to be part of this. So we would look to you to help us with, okay, well, what does that mean? What's the scope? So I know we're planning to have an open house probably here at some point, just on North Pool design. What do we want North Pool to be? We'll probably, once we select a consultant, the design and construction consultant, we'll probably have them come to a park meeting and really kind of flush that out with you. We'll probably have the same kind of opportunity with our swim team group. What do they need out of the pool? Because some of their needs are very specific. So that's one example. There's probably other examples of capital projects that the board will say this is a priority. And then we'll come back to you and say, well, what does that mean? What is it, you know? For example, if community park playground is a priority, which I'm not saying it is, but if it's identified as a priority, what does that mean? Does that mean, you know, we renovate the whole thing, we renovate half of it, we focus on accessibility, we focus on shade, what does that mean? So we'll come to you all for some of that really detailed stuff and probably offer some additional opportunity for public input. So we might have a meeting, a park meeting down at town hall again. So when we get 6 students, we still have room for the community to participate. But I think that's more the reality of the situation. There might be some smaller new projects that get identified, but I think really with that level of backlog, we're not looking for new ideas so much as detail on existing.
Yeah, just to restate it, because I think like some of us, myself included, probably have like a slightly different impression, and just make sure that I understand this is more of a you pulling from us when you need input, and the money is more to plug a hole that we had as opposed to do a lot of new development. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that there's greater need than what the funding can provide.
Yes.
So I'm in the same boat. I mean, the impression I had before the bond measure passed is very different than what I'm hearing right now. What I'm hearing right now is, hey, there's a bunch of backlog. We'll come to you guys before the bond measure passed. I heard is we're going to take care of the pools and we're going to do the playground, blah, blah. And it sounds to me like the South Pool may not even be a consideration, which I think is going to.
No, I think the pools are.
we haven't voted on it, so that it's not a.
I feel like it's-
But that was the tip of the spear for all of this.
I feel like it's consistent though.
Yeah.
Like we knew what our we knew it wasn't gonna be everything. We did hear very clearly that there was a backlog of more than the bond measure would pass for, and that was what we were struggling was how much of like, do we need to create low, medium, high ideas for each of the things we want to do? Because that's our job to push that to the board against the budget and then let them come back and say, simmer down, or hey, that's on point. And so when we talk about something like North Pole or Community Park, we kind of already landed based on the feedback. Community Park, we're not going to try to replace, we're going to refurbish, right? Or
But if the money's
update.
there, we can't, but it's not.
I felt like, I mean, I will speak for myself. I never expected this to like unlock another $4 million for a community park refurbishment, right? So even thinking about like the North Pole, which I think everybody in here has talked about, like that's one of the reasons why we're all here. You know, what the scale or the potential scope of that could be versus what it ends up in reality still will take months of public engagement, plus the design consultants, plus all the safety things and whatever else is. So I think we just have to hold ourselves to low, medium, and highs on those. And then if we truly feel like that's meeting the community need, like we make our formal recommendations as a park committee, and then we also go be public citizens and make our voices heard that way during those sessions too. But I just had to say, I don't feel like I heard anything different than what I heard before today.
I do just want to point out that, for example, if we decide like, okay, the North Pool is gonna be a priority, then, and the staff have looked at pools and they did a similar thing where they were like, this is like a really expensive option, this is a middle option, this is a lower option. But there are gonna be ideas and things that we don't have and we're not thinking of, it could be incorporated into that, it has to come from someone. That could be, you know, part of it might not be the boring, like we need to fix all these things that are broken, but it could be extra things that could be incorporated as part of it. So I think one of the reasons why PARC was a great committee for feedback from is because many of the things that are on the capital improvement list of deficiencies fall under PARC. And like the pools and playground, you know, stuff like that. So I think that this just by default is like what the areas are that need so much improvement. You guys are gonna, like, we're gonna be looking to you for a lot of feedback. And no, we can't get everything done. And we knew that going in. We're like, we have $35 million and we're only getting 20, right? Like, so.
So I think this is, you know, I don't want to get too stuck in the weeds here. This is sort of like a plan kind of one of these, like, do we need to be proactively providing the board or the town any input? Like we talked about, you know, usually our December meeting is, we go have those, right?
Yeah.
Do we need to be meeting to talk about anything specific, give you guys any input, or, you know, we don't want to miss the train, I think is the main.
I think the area we were looking at, like, let's say it's the pool, I think we weren't gonna be able to start that until like after it closes.
Because the dollars aren't available until
Right.
2025, we
Yeah.
can't really get it.
Okay.
So we can't even hire a consultant until 2025.
You just skip your
Yeah.
holiday.
But-
So we're not-
But
gonna miss the train.
yeah, I don't think you're missing the boat, but if there is anyone who has a particular interest in pools, new trends, sustainability things,
Yeah.
you know, maybe start making a list of we want more shade, you know, whatever that,
do have a list.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you
Well,
were-
I mean, less so the pools because we knew you guys were already proactively getting ideas and doing that kind of process for us. I think we were more making ideas for like community part, for when the time comes.
That was one of our other priorities.
Yeah,
I think that's a
Number
community
two.
that's a community high priority too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's just aging.
yeah, we just wanna get in on the right time
Yes.
to,
So
Be
I think
helpful.
what it comes from is the setup of pool tours and those things generate ideas without the committee. So we talked about that last time. And making sure that as the group that's hoping and wanting to advise, to be along for that journey and know when it is a passion point and we haven't had things of this size in a long time, what is the board gonna do? What is staff gonna do? And what is the best role that we can play to be here representing the community as well as, you know, the interests that we have as parents or community members on a personal level. So that was really, I think, the push was to not feel like we got left to the side during the next steps around the pool stuff specifically, because that's everybody's favorite topic.
Every time I say pools.
If I-
just pools.
if I-
You said yes today. You've already got a time wall.
No, we don't.
Oh, it is fun. You talk about the pools, right, pluralizing that, right? I don't know the exact dates, but say the south pool is open and North pool open for 12 weeks, roughly. The south pool is closed about 3 weeks. I would say, forget about some grand scheme or grand plan. How about just having the pools open? That'd be really awesome.
I think that's
during
the
that
baseline for all of this is.
Okay.
I should be a little higher than that, but yeah.
I mean, 12 weeks and 3 of them are closed. That's a major problem.
Well,
you know?
we realize a lot of staffing, and we know there's some other reasons, but I think a lot of the infrastructure of the buildings from previous discussions and the pool, like around it, like won't hold up as the temperatures cool. So when you redo them, you can actually create longer seasons and the other things that come with that, right? Then come on part of the discussion.
So
So
repairs to get them open that way. So why just needs to be replaced?
Yeah.
If I can just apologize on behalf of the board, you guys not being included in the pool tours were certainly not exclusionary. It was just an oversight, like we were
No,
trying to get an appointment.
So, yeah.
People, and then in aftermath, I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I think it was just sort of the psychology of the community of like, we want to make sure we're getting ahead of things.
yeah, but
Yeah.
to like ensure one of you are like invited along to stuff like that. That was unusual. We don't usually we don't usually do that. So I think I just want to make sure that there's no idea that it was an exclusion and that it was just like.
We knew, we
You
knew it went.
could have done better, but it was not to not have you there.
We knew that process, like, it was like, oh, we're doing this now, like, we have to do this now.
That's exactly.
And that's exactly, we get that.
But we can do better. So it's on my radar to make sure that if there's something like that comes up again, that staff's letting you guys know, and maybe not the whole committee, but like somebody's coming. To be aware of it.
Do we have any idea when structurally the town would be kind of back in shape, tax base wise? Because before the Marshall Fire, before Element Hotel burned down, we were gonna be building new pools and all this stuff, and when are we getting back on track, tax wise? We got a new hotel coming in right by the Element where it used to be, and do we have any forecasts as like when we'll be back in gravy?
I think it's still gonna take years. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Has it structurally changed so much that we've taken on a lot of debt from Marshall Fire, and so it's gonna be like decades worth, or?
I don't think it's
Is it
that long,
downtown?
but I don't think it's gonna be in the next couple of years.
So, we're gonna use the budgets that are approved and work there, and I think that's part of what I liked what you wrote up was making sure we're maintaining what we have, not always going for big things every time, but this is a unique opportunity also for probably the pools, plural, to get some progression that they wouldn't have had otherwise because it was focused, because it was written in the language. So if we don't deliver something, people will then go, well, what did we do? You said it was going to go to the pool. I don't see any difference with the pools. So I think we actually have more grace with the pools than we would have with other projects. But down the road, whatever those years are when funding comes back on, then that's when we can do larger things with parks or other pool updates that aren't a direct result of going out and fundraising effectively.
I'm like,
Time-wise, these will be done before we ever get back in the black.
Part of the lack of expectation to be back in the black over the next couple of years is what prompted the board to do this.
Yes.
Because we were like, we're gonna be operating in a deficit for a little while here, so like we're still doing. I mean, I think a lot of people think that like the March fire happened and then things are insured or FEMA, and like we are still trying to get money from them. Like it is not done at all. And so those things take years.
So insurance takes a long time.
Yeah, so it's years, but I don't think decades.
Okay, so I just want to summarize. It seems like our job really is, a lot of it is going to be you guys are going to come to us and ask for input. That's number one, great. Makes it easy for us because we know what to expect. Two is probably to be a little proactive about because we would like to see, but I think we have to hit that sweet spot of realistic, maybe a little past realistic, and then let's let the town board tell us, no, here's what you can have. And then I think, three is we probably don't need to meet in December to stay ahead of the train, so to speak, right? We can meet in January, so.
Cool.
Good?
That's great.
Great.
Okay, cool. All right, let's move on then. 3G, review and finalize 2025 park work plan. I'm just gonna share that on here. So thanks for everyone who.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. for
Thank
coming.
you.
Yeah, so I am gonna share what we have. Thank you for everyone who went in there and added things. Just a second. What is the share?
Of the meeting? No.
No,
No.
Oh, of the.
yeah, that one, yeah.
We're now on G.
We're now on G. We're 3G. Yep.
Are you gonna blow that up just a little bit?
You're good.
Sorry.
I can.
This next one is G.
Better, okay. You can also maximize your one of that one.
Oh, I guess, yes, my bad. You're in.
What's that? Brian had the picture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 1 second, bud.
So I'll keep the talk track going while you're working on that. So thanks for everyone who put stuff in here. What I did is there were, I said a couple different levels of things that went into this. One are the more high level like discussion points, and then there probably is like a level down of things that was, I'll say, are like ideas for things related to parks more specifically. So I did pull those out and I made a section down here with those in them. It's not to say that I'm saying we shouldn't talk about them, we should. I think the venue for talking about them may be when we go to do our prioritization exercise. These are all things that can go on the list. And then also some of these are things that I think park, potentially if our own volunteer time could be spent to do some of these things as well. So let's keep them sort of there. Let's not forget about them. Let's keep talking about them, but I want to keep this at more of a level of, high level bullet points. Where are the things we're going to be sort of talking about holding ourselves to over the quarters.
Good job.
Okay, so the first thing would be to finalize this work plan, send it to the board. I think that's typically done. I don't know if that's at the end of the year or beginning of the year. I guess it must be in the beginning of the year because here it is.
It's in the beginning, but I think we don't put them total.
Yeah, so I think if we do that in January, that's fine. Which means we don't actually technically have to be done with this tonight, but hey, it would be nice if we were, right?
Yes.
Hold a leadership election, and then establish our discretionary budget priorities for the year. And then the biggest thing that we do every year, conducting this events and services prioritization. So that's where all of our big ideas and small ideas, medium ideas, all go into our big list, and we try to come up with our list of priorities, both in terms of the things we want to push to the board and maybe other things that we feel like we could do some other way, either through like our discretionary budget, volunteer time, something like that. And then I think, instead of saying complete recommendations for spending additional funds for bond measure, I think this is going to be like an ongoing thing. So review and provide feedback on, I think there's probably better language based on what we just discussed.
Yeah, maybe take out the word additional.
Yeah. Funds, it's just funds.
They are added to zero.
Otherwise, right? If it hadn't passed.
I will say though, that as committees go, you guys are one of the few that are gonna actually be asking for bits of what we narrowed down the funds for. So like CAPS isn't asking for us to pay, like, so you don't, just to not make you feel like, oh, we gotta get this to like, kind of it in terms of capital.
You've got to be close. To us for questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Community spaces, providing input on potential programming for downtown space. So I think we had a lot of different ideas here and I kind of condensed it down to that. But I think that with that new town space coming online, certainly there's a lot of opportunities to discuss what could be going on there, and how that could get programmed, and what gets programmed in it. And then potential collaborations with community partners for programming. This was sort of the why idea, but I just wanted to capture that in a more general way. Second, and by the way, if anyone has anything that they want to add or change, just say as we're going through this. Second quarter, final budget recommendations to town board for 2026 based on our amenities and service prioritization. So this is, we take that list and we're going to say, hey, town, here are some things we think you should spend some money on. I think this year that's going to certainly be a little bit weird with the bond measure and sort of overlapping with that. But we do this every year. Continue master plan implementation. So that's just discussing any of the things on the master plan that we need to provide input on.
On that one, can we just pause? So they showed the work going into like mid 26 on the timeline view. So I feel like we're at the very tail end of the previous master plan. So is this really more like
new master plan?
I think this is referring to the pros master plan,
Yeah, we should probably
not the comprehensive plan. This is the parks rec and open space.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I do, that's a good, to your point, Brent, I do think that we are going to be providing input on the, what was it called?
the comprehensive plan?
Yeah.
Just because I know, I guess I feel like things will come and keep going in waves, but with the pros plan, like, I mean, we've got our list that like we can review that, but I don't think there's anything that's going to jump out that isn't already on the list or coming. So just I could double check that too.
Okay. Usually we have a park and town board meeting, and we identify somebody to go to CPRA again. We usually do our park walks, to identify any sort of things ideas that we spark or things that we need to be addressed.
We're not making suggestions on that, are we? Because I'd like to go with the Wildflower Park.
Yeah, I mean, we can sort of like.
Yeah, can I put Founders Park in there as well?
I think only because.
I'm so sorry.
The pump and pedal park and that thing.
Can we all go to Miners Park and try to ride the green slide and they tell me that it's not put together wrong?
It depends on if you're a kid or not.
It is terrifying.
It's so fast.
Even someone by myself.
Is it like
with
the
the
car slide?
It just feels like the pieces were like, look, we can make it turn here, and then it's not how it's supposed to be.
Sounds like a quick and fix.
Wildflowers.
All right. So we'll put, I think we can also do as many of these as we want, guys, right? I mean, this is up to us. So if we want to do.
Wildflower's got some cool structures that
Yeah.
we might want to consider for
That's a good point.
community park.
Yeah, so we could, get some ideas from our.
And workout structures,
Yeah.
Founders also has, so like they have 3 structures, but the one up top was repurposed apparently. So that is older than anything else there and is honestly probably in worse state than anything I've seen in Superior. And it's the highest volume park. So.
Right, okay, so we'll figure that out. I mean, again, we do one of those months. I mean, it's just whatever the committee sort of can bear in terms of additional time. So we can figure that out. It's just, I think we usually do this in Q2 because obviously it's cold. Okay. Identify issues with parks that could be improved and are just regular maintenance. So there was a chunk of ideas that people had put in that were beyond regular maintenance, but were maybe a little lower than the level of like major capital things. I think some examples were like, let's see, this idea of like putting in, lockers with equipment, like equipment caches, right? That seems like something that would kind of go in that category. So I put that in there to discuss. And then for community spaces, review existing programming, make recommendations for changes or additions. And then
I'm sorry to pause.
Go for
it. Beyond the maintenance, how did you have that phrased up there?
I said,
not just regular maintenance.
Yeah.
So when I hear you say that, like that it's in that such bad disrepair, I know Leslie stepped out, like, does that, do we need to be as town people, like putting that through C-Click Fix to like get those things addressed? Cause I don't wanna like not let it be, and I don't know like how much that's for us versus the things that we need to drive to staff because there is a budget for it. And I just don't wanna miss it.
So what I'm
when
gonna
it's
do is,
framed.
I might add an item here that says like identify major maintenance issues
At parks.
at parks.
Sorry, the chip.
Yeah, no, at the park, well, we saw it with like the pour in place separating from the concrete over there. So like, I can put anything in C-Click Fix, but like, do we have any role as a committee in alerting to maintenance issues, or is that stuff that, I feel like that has a separate path through the town? And then when we do our park walks, if we find new things, we fill stuff on that path. Versus try to do other stuff to fix it, right? Like it's a separate.
I mean, from a staff perspective, this is definitely having another voice from residents is huge. I mean, we have our park staff, we have one that is a certified playground inspector, so we do inspections monthly. And address, maintenance items and whatnot. But yes, I mean, I think keeping this on here and having you, obviously C-Click Fix, yes, is an avenue as well. That's very efficient, we're try to be very responsive on that stuff, but yeah, big stuff. I mean, definitely want to hear from you guys for sure on that.
Yeah, I know there's some lingering things that keeps coming up. It's just like, yeah, this hasn't been fixed.
And I guess my point is like, if we put that in first, we're gonna make a motion or something in first quarter to address these 4 things that have been outstanding park complaints with some chunk of budget or fund or make a recommendation. Like, I just don't want those things to go unfixed because we glance over them. Was really the point.
Well, there might be things that like people are thinking about that they're not driven to actually do C-Click Fix, things. But if enough of you guys are, noticing that.
If there are 8 C-Click Fixes about the same thing in 3 minutes, then all of a sudden.
That'll overwhelm the system.
You can
Enough
just
C-Click
email a
fixes.
picture that just to.
But I think that's part of.
Send it, I just.
But that's, I guess my point in that is, I like that you said beyond regular maintenance, that's not our focus. But I think we all need to remind ourselves and our neighbors and stuff, like if they're a regular maintenance thing, the town has a budget and a process for those things, and not putting it in means they're not getting fixed. So.
I think we'll put that. When fires just messed up the whole budget. I mean, we got a reserve. The town has a reserve for CapEx, right? It's built into the budget annually, I would imagine. If they don't, even.
It is.
I'm not, yeah. So, but when the fire happened, that just blew everything.
And maybe that's one of the things that comes out of where we look at all that through Q2, because this is all second quarter, right?
I moved this up into Q1.
Okay, well then even better, because then we could have like a maintenance plus category for some of these updates that are necessary, but there wasn't budget for before.
Yep.
The pocket parks, like Pirate Park and also TA parks, those are the HOA or the under us?
They're under us.
Yeah. I'm the HOA control buildings.
Just the one in the townhomes.
Okay.
Oh,
Right here. Right.
Yeah. Are they on a maintenance schedule, like a refresh schedule?
I mean, I don't know specifically the schedule, but yes, they're included in the park inspection. Our park superintendent, Matt Rarick, and his staff do that.
Yeah, a refresh for the equipment.
Oh, refresh, actually, yeah, I mean, I guess I can't speak specifically on, I don't think we have a formal schedule on replacement, but I know they are inspected for sure, but,
Yeah.
So they have different lifespans.
for sure, yeah.
So it's not like, oh, this whole park needs.
Right. Right.
Sorry for.
No, that's a good tangent. Okay. I put in the equipment caches idea here, just something to discuss, since that's a little more involved. Again, reviewing the existing programming, making any recommendations or changes. By the way, if anyone wants to see something with a little more depth about programming, I feel like we talk a lot about capital and we talk a lot about facilities, but we don't spend as much time talking about programming.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to spend more time on that. I'm happy to, if anyone has any specific ideas that they want to put in here, let me know. I think we have another shot at this since apparently it's not till February, right?
Right.
something like that. We'll consider,
Yeah.
we'll call it
I guess we'll be
January.
ready for more now.
Yeah, we have it on here, January is finalizing it, so,
I think we just don't get them till then.
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like we have. to change.
Thank you for sending that YMCA
Oh, yeah.
background. That was the first year I moved here. I moved
Oh,
here in
yeah.
2015, so I vaguely remember YMCA here, but it's good, some good background.
Yeah,
$36,000 is a drop in the bucket.
yeah.
Wait, so what's
It's nothing.
So the YMCA thing?
YMCA thing, yeah.
Should Brent send out an email.
Yeah, but YMCA used to be in town Superior.
Well, yeah.
For activities.
Oh, no way.
But
It
now-
wasn't quite as awesome as it, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
I mean,
sorry.
yeah, I mean, it really, in reality, was specifically mainly, I won't get into it all, but like soccer programming. It wasn't as expansive as you might think you might get for that, you know. I would argue that I think we're doing more now, or there's more opportunities available, but
Because we've outsourced that to,
well, just even more so than what was happening then, you know.
yeah.
And
Things
so,
changed.
yeah, and on the programming point, like Robert said, and I kind of mentioned it in my email, if you guys, I'm more than happy, like January, if it's a agenda item, I'll give you guys an update. I can provide an update on what we're doing now, program numbers, 2024, actually the year end. I can do that in January. I can do facility reservations as well and throw some up there. So you guys at least have an idea of what we're doing. And obviously we have the civic space coming online in March, April timeframe. So
They started construction and everything?
yeah. Yep. I don't know how far along there. Leslie probably knows a little more about that, but yeah, they have.
What, I guess my overarching just idea on the YMCA, when I saw it written there in the old plan, I'm just like, well, that's kind of a no-brainer, but, what's the historical precedence for committees such as PARC to be responsible for putting together programming on a volunteer basis for the town, I guess is my question.
I mean, generally speaking, there hasn't been a ton of committee-led or park-led programs. So not really just park, but all committees. I mean, I think CAPS is doing a lot of stuff now this way. I think ACES does a little bit.
My mom, it's like they had like this volunteer run committee before the town had like a volunteer coordinator position. And that just like took a lot off of like the volunteers putting their time and energy into it.
Yeah.
So since then, the town has taken over all of it, mostly in those grand schemes of like 4th of July and Chili Fest.
Yeah, events, yeah, sure. But as far as like programs, events,
yeah.
right, you know, but yeah, I mean, certainly it's within Parks purview if there's, you know, a program or something, an educational program or whatnot that you want to run. I mean, other committees do it. That's up to you guys and your capacity and interest and whatnot.
Yes.
So the way stuff.
That's kind of what I'm going to, because my wife's on the CAPS committee, and it's been conveyed that there's not been a lot of success in getting people to show up on some of those volunteer-led classes.
Because they're free.
Like that's my point.
Yeah.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
So just more to consider that.
Yeah. But
I mean, 18 people will sign up and 4 people show.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the programming is really interesting because it'd be cool to see like what club sports are using our facilities and can we get more of them and
Mhm.
yeah.
It's like charging for the swag. I'm a banker. it's like,
No wonder you want to do more work.
well, yeah, right. It'd be like, you know, I think that if that having someone sign up with a YCA for, you know, $20, you know, they might show up if they're, or some other, whatever group it is, maybe outsource that. It makes much more sense than trying to run things on a programming basis.
Yeah.
But by volunteers. It's not been successful from what I understand.
Yeah.
It's my whole point on bringing up the YMCA thing again.
Did I tell you guys that when we did our last budget meeting, I asked them to remove the $50 fee for the trailers?
Yeah, so that,
Thank you.
that's awesome.
I just,
Yeah.
It just seems like it's still like,
I'm
it's
like,
not, there's no way.
let's
it
get some
doesn't
traction on this thing
matter
before we do
Yes.
to the
that.
town, right? Come on. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, So a little wider through the third and fourth quarter, but I think that's fairly typical because then a lot of times stuff will slip or we end up adding stuff. So, reviewing the pro semester plan, so recommendations to areas to address in 2026 and beyond, just sort of trying to stay ahead of ourselves there a little bit. Continue providing any input on in progress or future playground park enhancements, update our schedule for desired committee park walks. This is just sort of this big catch-all that's like suggestions for events, programming, downtown programming, everything, all the things that we want to suggest. Certainly we can make this more specific. I'm happy to have input there. Somebody will go to the CPRA conference and tell us about it. In fourth quarter, usually we do a budget presentation to figure out sort of where things are going to be after next year. This should be the pro semester plan. So addressing anything in there, doing our 2026 work plan, reviewing any capital improvements as identified by pros or pros, whatever. With a T. That's what I thought. Updating park walks, usually we do it one more a year. Revealing our facility usage. This is that same, catch-all, giving the suggestions, final report. Okay, anybody have any other input, any other thoughts? Or we sort of say good enough for now, maybe we'll revisit in January just to sort of refine.
And actually, if I can add, yeah, I think if there's a way, if the group's comfortable finalizing it tonight, just there's no December meeting, that would be amazing. Because I do think, talking with Michaela, I think the work plans, I think the first couple meetings in December or January of the committee work plans are gonna go to the board.
Yep. Okay. I mean, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's February. I think it's January. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mention that a little bit ago.
Okay.
Phones me up to see what whole year like planned out be on. What I think.
You got it.
25, 12 minutes.
What's that?
Only 12 meetings.
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, if it's the typical thing we do.
It's a total of 22 hours.
Yeah.
3 for each of them.
I think
Sometimes
11 meetings, 2 hours a meeting. Someone goes, why'd you pick lowest number?
There's still out.
What's up? Overall, I'm okay being ranked most efficient. Do we need to make a motion? That's ready, or we just
think we just say
we're.
I don't think we have to make.
I mean, I was just looking also, is this a pretty good list for?
So
Historically?
I think this is a great list.
I think we have more than we usually.
Yeah,
I just don't know where, are we slackers?
I feel like.
No, there's so a lot of this, and I know Robert put like Susan had done an amazing job of prepping and setting stuff up quarter by quarter in a very templated manner, which means there's not much to change because a lot of the stuff is the same. So the specificity on the pros plan, knowing we'll get the engagement, and then being able to be generic about that means like if something comes in, great, we can tackle it. We don't have to like push it to the next quarter. So I think this just went on the heels. So I didn't add a lot because truthfully, like I thought the work Susan did, and I don't know if she did it all or who she got it from, but it's directive enough, but not confining to not be limiting and not be overwhelming at the same time. So,
and I'm sure they, inherited from.
Yeah, but it's good. It's really, I feel like we have more than last year, definitely.
I think this is not a slacker.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
More look at, wow. Yeah.
but we didn't have like put sculptures in the medians.
Well, I mean, they're asking everyone to put on a whole event by themselves, a class.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
And the whole committee is asked to put on a
That's
class.
on them.
But yeah. I'm just saying, like, just like.
We're gonna have trucker hats.
And their agenda are like 3 pages for one meeting. What's this for?
And how happy are they? And how happy are they? Right, like, yeah, here we go.
All right.
So we are good with,
Here we are.
Martha, are we missing anything on there?
No.
Okay. Cool. All right. So then I guess that means that we actually are not going to have a full meeting in December, which means do we need to pick where we're going to eat?
I mean, preferably, then I can, if you guys have an idea, it could still be the meeting a regularly scheduled
Right,
meeting,
well,
day and time, but just a location. Yeah.
We learned last time that they do trivia.
They do trivia on
Wednesday.
Yeah.
At Vandy?
At Vandy,
Yeah.
which is why we ended up not
that'd be
doing
fun.
it last year. It was,
It's just busy.
Okay.
The Pharaohs is pretty cool.
I think it's,
I don't
close,
think
or it's
that's there
moved.
anymore.
No, it's moved.
Already?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I think it was moving to Erie, I think. to the
Yeah.
long- or long line.
I was only here for like a year.
Yeah. I think it's just to go there.
Isn't that the new? No, that was. No, it's not.
Hey, let's get the block party trailer out. Like a fire right out, or like, I'm gonna paint a fire pit, and like, I'll roll up the window.
Okay, how about this? I'll send out like a little email for suggestions and then you guys can vote.
Great, sounds
Figure it out.
That's cat.
It's it'll be the 18th.
Next door.
It would be, yeah.
It's going to be the 18th.
Unless people, we don't have to have it at a specific time, but I mean,
He bought.
that's why I say that's the default would be
The 18th.
that it's.
I will be out of town that day.
They're gonna own like that whole strip mall soon enough.
Okay, so we'll figure it out. But assume regular time, regular day. Okay, cool. 4A, updates from town staff and trustee liaison.
Yeah, I actually don't have anything.
Great.
Pretty fortunate then.
Do committee assignments at our December's meeting, mid-December. And I am going to ask for PARC, but I don't know that I will get PARC, so you might trustee assign, which that's fine. I mean, we all like change out, but just a heads up, but.
Is there any way for us to influence that process?
I've asked for it because I like it. I was on PARC before I was ever on the commission, so it's.
Just, the continuity, I think, is also really helpful.
So far as I know, like, I don't know anyone who's like trying to pick that one up, but, we also still don't know who's on the board yet, so.
Fair.
So I just, yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna do my best.
All right, sounds good.
So do we pick a location for the?
We did not pick one. I will put out a list of suggestions and you guys can vote maybe or something.
Great.
If anybody has suggestions, just email me, let me know. Okay.
I have a question. So downtown space, so that's gonna be open like March-ish or something?
I mean, tentatively right now, more like April.
So I think we have some time to provide some input. I mean, I had that fairly early on the agenda.
Okay. Who's responsible for cleaning up the downtown square? Like, is that us or is that
Would it be the Metro?
Is that the downtown?
Yeah, they
Metro
have their
area?
own.
That's Metro, yeah.
Metro,
Yeah, district.
So you gotta get on it and it gets gnarly down there. Cause a lot of kids use it. There's like wrappers and stuff.
I bet it's a wind catch for some.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
it's a
is.
lot
Big
more
time.
text.
Swirls around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Okay. 4Bs, summary points.
Okay, for the update on Polk Creek pedestrian crossing, Leslie provided some background on the project, major milestones, and the intention reason behind the project. She gave details on the low water crossing alternative as well as the pedestrian bridge. The comprehensive plan briefing was presented on the comprehensive plan and efforts to collect information from the town. Survey information was collected as well as future data analysis to interpret the needs and wants from the community. They will be back. Brief from the CPRA conference Justin attended in Keystone in October. He shared his experience representing the park committee, not just a volunteer.
Thank you.
Brian stated the swag order was placed based on feedback from the committee with $500 remaining in funds. The tax ballot measure was passed, which will help fund existing backlog of projects. Park will need to provide feedback as needed on those upcoming projects. Pool updates are a top concern. 2025 work plan. Robert walked through the 2025 work plan content with contributions from committee members and finalization of the document. That concludes the summary.
And one more note from me, I will make a new note-taking rotation list and send that out. I think we hit the end of our current one, so. I will randomize everyone except for those that I promised would be nice to at the end because they keep saving my bacon when I forget to ask somebody to take notes. Okay, with that, at 8:55, we'll consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Have a good day.